My name is Dan Dorval, and I'm President and CEO of Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. I am an independent certified financial planner and author of my book, Financial Success for the Rest of Us, Reality-Based Financial Planning for Mainstream America.
Hi, my name is Leah Woodley. I'm an associate financial advisor with Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. Our conversations discuss what it means to do quality of life planning in all areas of your life.
Dan, it's that time again. We get to celebrate a well-deserving nurse with our Quality of Life Nurse Award. Why don't you tell us a little bit about her?
Well, our April Quality of Life Nurse Award winner is Charlene Burd, and she does a lot of work for the Association of Critical Care Nurses. And she has put in decades of work as a nurse at Regions Hospital here in the Twin Cities. And we are very excited to have a conversation with her.
Yes, well, I can't wait to meet her. Let's bring her on. Hi, Charlene.
Hi.
Well, congratulations on being our next Quality of Life Nurse Award recipient.
Thank you so much.
You
That's
are
really an
so
honor.
welcome.
Yeah, you received a very nice nomination, and it sounds like you have done a tremendous amount of work for the Association of Critical Care Nurses, along
Mhm.
with decades as being a nurse. My understanding is you're at Regions Hospital, is that correct?
I am. I work on the surgical ICU and neurocritical care unit.
And so, why don't you? We have a few questions to ask, just as a normal interview type thing. And so, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? As far as being a nurse, the work you value the most, and then maybe some of your work that you're doing with the association.
Sure. I graduated from nursing school back in 1993. Um, I lived in Ohio at the time, and the job market was really bad. It took almost a year to find a job. All the hospitals were laying off, some were closing. Um, we moved to Minnesota in 1995, and I worked in long-term care before I got my job at Regions. I've been at Regions since 1997. Um, Started in physical medicine and rehab for a little over a year and spent a short amount of time in the float pool. And then since 1998, I've been on the surgical ICU there. Um, I love taking care of injured patients. I love the neuro stuff. That's kind of my forte. Um, I like taking care of people with brain bleeds and strokes and the motor vehicle crashes, that kind of thing. Um, for a long time, I worked per diem, where when the kids were smaller, I was able to kind of make my own schedule. I had to pick up a certain amount of weekend shifts or hours per month. So as a career, it was the flexibility was there. I could raise my kids, not miss any of their events, and still work in the ICU. And I was able to pick up enough hours to kind of maintain like a zero point 0.6 FTE. Um, for the last year, I stayed on call like per diem for many years. It was last January when I took a regular position on the unit after about 20 years. Um, so I'm working about a zero point 0.7, and I'm one of their weekend preceptors for our weekend, and I'm one of the mentors for the new employees. And I just love what I do. I love bedside nursing. Um, And then back in 2016, there was a nurse on our unit who was involved with the local chapter of the American Association of Critical Care Nurses. And she invited me to a meeting, and I've been a part of the chapter ever since. And I've held many positions on the board, from one of the education chairs to the president-elect, president. Right now, I'm the membership chair. And I just really enjoy helping to plan their conferences, or like this week we're having a review course for nurses that want to get certified in progressive care and critical care. Certification is a passion of mine. I've been certified in critical care since 2001 and got another certification in neuroscience nursing back in 2023. And I just love making the connections, the networking, getting nurses, like I said, certified, you know, help them with their education, like maintaining current knowledge and best practice as far as taking care of patients. I connect them with vendors and nonprofit organizations. Um, Nurses love to volunteer. We have a 2-day symposium every year. We have nonprofit organizations displaying tables and try to make the connection with the ICU and progressive care nurses and other organizations. And
So
that's my spiel.
we one of the things that's unusual about your nomination, a lot of times, most of the nurses that we've talked to, they were nominated by a coworker. So it's somebody I work with them every day. They kind of do certain things with me. Maybe they mentored me. And, I felt really good about nominating them for this Quality of Life Nurse Award. In your case, it was somebody from actually a different health system. And so we know right away that it's coming at this from more of a networking and the impact that you had on somebody outside of work through your work with the association. And then of course you're talking about being a preceptor and you're training nurses, you're doing all of those things. Why don't you just talk a little bit about the importance of, senior nurses willing to get involved, willing to volunteer, and the impact that they can have on that next generation of nurses.
Oh my gosh, it speaks volumes to be a part of helping to connect them. As an example, there's an organization called Play for Patrick. It was started by the parents of a teen who experienced sudden cardiac death. They were one of the nonprofit organizations at our symposium a couple years ago. And now we have nurses that volunteer at their heart screenings that they do several times a year, trying to find heart defects in teens and young adults, before something happens, and getting them connected with the right physicians and nurses. With the way things have changed over the years, I'm just happy to be a part of the change and kind of like leaving things in a better place than what they were when I started. I, I don't know. I just want to help, younger nurses kind of blossom and see what's out there. Nursing is such a vast thing, and there's so many different routes your career could take. You don't have to work in a hospital or long-term care. You could work at a university. You could work for a nonprofit. And I just enjoy being part of their exploration of what's out there.
Well, we appreciate that because, we've helped thousands of nurses over the years. And of course, in recent years, especially since COVID, so many nurses that have all of this experience have left. They've retired, they've moved on. And, a lot of people talk about the challenges of that next generation having people available to help them because it's so difficult as a young nurse to get started and you don't know, you have the training, you have the knowledge, but you don't necessarily have that experience, especially critical care. We're talking
Mhm.
about, serious injuries, serious things that are going on, and that's not easy to handle. Why don't you talk just a little bit about how things have changed since you got started to where, like, let's say a younger nurse starting today? Why don't you talk about some of those changes, how healthcare has evolved?
Oh, healthcare has changed a lot. People are sicker, and when I started in critical care, almost 27, 28 years ago, the people that are surviving now weren't making it back then. And that there's just so much more technology out there and treatments and medications and things that we use. And it, I think it's a bigger adjustment for nurses coming out of orientation now, because when we use the word sick or injured, like what that means and what you see is so different than 25 years ago. What we're seeing in the ICUs a lot of times are people that died in the ER back then. Um, I think like technology wise, nurses have a lot more to learn now than we did back then, as far as equipment or even the computerized charting. And there's just a different level of expertise now that's required than there was back then. And I
Thanks for
just,
sharing that. Were you going to say something?
no, no, I'm done.
Well, one thing we like to ask our nurse award recipients is if there was one piece of advice you can give to other nurses who want to improve the quality of life of others, be it their coworkers, their patients, or even people in their neighborhood, what would you suggest? How should they approach improving quality of life?
Um, I think just to be open and be receptive and engage and just just be there to listen. That means volumes to everybody. And then the
Well,
rest will fall, and then the rest just kind of falls in place.
getting involved is obviously, nurses have a lot of challenges at work as it is. So getting involved, taking that next step, networking, those are all challenges for a lot of nurses. So we definitely congratulations on winning our April Quality of Life Nurse Award. We
Thank you.
appreciate you taking the time to visit with us today. We do have a cash award for this, so we send out $500 to all of our recipients. But we do appreciate you taking the time and appreciate all you do for other nurses and our communities.
Oh, thank you so much. It was nice meeting you.
Nice
All right,
meeting
have a
you as
good rest of
well.
your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.